And yo, what's outside is within. The mind regulates the hand that masters the pen. The pen is mightier than the sword, but the tongue is mightier still. The stargate to the mind's revealed. The vortex.
Alright, peace everybody, Cyclonious here with our special segment, Real Talk with Kevin. I wanted to jump in, Kev, straight away on the aspects of us calling ourselves kings and queens. I find that in the black community, we do that a lot. But usually I don't like to give my take on what I think, but I think, or what I, a king has to have a kingdom. So, I feel that us as black people, we're not actually striving to have the kingdom. We say a lot, but I think the action is where the real language lies. So, my first question to you is, why is it important for black families to teach their children about the rich history of African kings, queens, pharaohs, and great leaders?
Your introduction says a lot, because there can be a contradiction in what's done as black people and what's written, especially if you want to fall in line with saying you're a king or queen, and that can be quite upsetting. But for self-identity and self-esteem, especially for historically when it comes to the educational curriculum and the starting point being slavery, and the omission of black history from mainstream history. A lot of black young people don't understand where they've come from, apart from, all right, we're slaves, and that can be encoded into memory. Unconsciously, you can have that rolling around and making you behave in a particular manner because you don't see yourself as any better than that. So for me, to develop a real strong sense of self-esteem, and a realization of the greatness of a people, not the impoverished state or the dehumanization. If you see yourself as dehumanized, you're always on your back foot. If you see yourself as a slave or inferior, you're always on your back foot. So for me, promoting the great kings and queens and the great civilizations of Africa, from Monomotapa to Benin, Yoruba, Axiom, Kushite kingdom, all the great civilizations, for them to have an understanding of it and develop an interest of black history as something phenomenal. Astronomy, astrology, mathematics, geometry, everything, writing, literature, oral tradition, everything passed down, different languages, and then understanding after that the deconstruction of a people and the dehumanization, and then again the rise of a people out of that adversity and how great we are to be able to do that, gives a lot to young people, and having an understanding of that holistically, serves well for a young boy or young man that's a young boy or young woman that's black and is immersed in a society that sometimes makes them feel that society's against them. To have a strong foundation, I think that serves them well moving forward into adulthood.
Okay, because I was going to ask you, how does the concept of being a king or a queen, how can it be empowering for individuals within the black community?
For me, if you look at some of the great kings and queens, whether it was like Kushite, Pi, Kashta, and queens as well, like Hatshepsut, Amina, Nzinga. When you look at it, it's about nobility. It's about moral compass. It's about thinking logically. It's about managing large groups of people, like your family and the extended family. It's about just being on point generally with everything you do. All right, nations rise and fall, and there are conflicts, but managing yourself through those conflicts to whatever end. Because sometimes nations, like the 30 or 31 dynasties of Egypt, of course there's going to be, lots of ructions going on, so to speak.
Yeah.
Whether there was problems with Kushite kingdom and the Romans and the Greeks and all the mix-up during the sort of economical trade-off and power struggle. But at the end of the day, they all operate in a certain way to keep those dynasties going and keep order. And you can't have chaos and create order from it. You know, that the chaos comes, and out of it may come that, but there's a development, a tension that comes before the chaos comes. But before that time, usually things are okay until other fractions get involved, and then there becomes conflict. So for me, it's all about nobility, doing the right thing, having a strong moral compass. And nowadays in society, how it is, it's hard work. You know, the pressures of capitalism are immense, and they come in all kinds of different guises and sort of enter your brain in really sneaky ways.
Right.
So young people and older people, black people, don't understand how they're behaving sometimes, and sort of become more polarized from the sort of idea of being a king or queen. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So, in what ways can individuals embody the characteristics of a king and a queen in their daily lives, regardless of historical titles or statuses?
For me, you know, the first thing is to smash stereotypes. Yeah. It's funny because I was having a conversation with someone the other day, and it's hard to smash these stereotypes in a society sometimes that feels, that puts you on your back foot. Because you're already waiting for something, the next microaggression, or, you know, some sort of, you're ready to respond, your back's up, sort of that survival instinct that you've got going on. But, sorry, say the question again there.
I said, in what ways can individuals embody the characteristics of kings and queens in their daily lives, regardless of historical titles or status?
Yeah. So, do the right things. Bottom line, do the right things in the right way. Smash those stereotypes that are on you. You know, there are people in this society, and you know, I won't use the word lightly, and whether it's consciously or unconsciously, in certain environments, especially in institutions, test you as a black person. You can feel it when it's happening. Some people will say it's not happening and you've got a chip on your shoulder, but people want to denounce your feelings emotionally sometimes, you know what I mean? Because they're not able to feel that, and maybe that might be a consequence of us having more melanin and being more spiritually in tuned. Maybe it's that, as Anthony Broder has said, the Egyptologist. But doing the right things, not becoming the nigger when you're pressured, because some people want to see that. They want to see that come out. They want to test you. All right, you're like that. So let's see it in this boardroom. I'm gonna do a few things to you to prod the sleeping lion. And when you don't show them that, you know, it causes attitude change. You know, you're moving more in line in that king status.
Right.
You know, where you can't be tested, and you maintain control in situations. You reach to work on time. You teach your children the right things to do and how to navigate life in the best way, to benefit them and future generations. It's all about everything being positive. Of course, in life, you're going to get tested. And there are times when kings had to go to war. So you're going to have to go to war. But you're going to have to go to war with your mind and your mouth, not with your hands. The only time that really is supposed to happen is when someone's attacking your family or someone close to you, and you've got no choice. Outside of that, you know, the mental struggle and the mental war, and you operating in a king-like way sort of embodies all of that for me.
I hear you, bruv. So, what historical and societal factors may have contributed to the disconnect between claiming royal heritage and embodying regal qualities within the black community?
That is so complex, it's unreal. I think, you know, if you're aware of what's going on to a certain extent, and it's funny because there's two sides of the coin to that. Some people will say that you're aware, but you're not, because it's all conspiracy, you know, and other people that aren't aware are just existing and thinking everything's okay. For those people that are more in tune, and you know, there's evidence that shows, whether it's in regards to inequality in education, in healthcare, in schools, in policing, across the board. You know, there's literature that demonstrates that there's inequalities. So you have to be aware that there are things going on across the board, and that you've got to operate in a particular way to survive in this environment.
That's right.
And more so in in environments that are predominantly white, you know, and that's not disrespecting white people, you know, in any way, shape or form. Like I've said before, I'm a humanist first and a black man second. It's only because, you know, in society they've put titles on being black, and they've labelled people a certain way to keep them in their place.
Yeah.
But I was a human first, just like in the times when there was no racism. Black and white people just existed together.
That's right.
Have I answered the question?
Yeah. You know, we're looking at the historical and societal factors. But yeah, last question.
No, and plus what it is, racism and slavery and all that has played such a major role. Capitalism played a role in people thinking a certain way and not operating in a certain way. Social media's played a big role in that. Media's played a big role in people sort of becoming polarized from the images of kings and queens. People are mixed up nowadays in the worst way. They don't know if they're coming or going. But some people will say that's part of the plan. You know, the worst thing for the powers that control everything to see is black unity. That's why at any given point in time when it was happening, it had to be smashed to smithereens.
That's right.
So how else do you keep a set of people and it's not unified? You have social media, you present the impoverished with image of glitz and glamour that they can't attain, but they can on an illegal level in their own minds, but it's not really working because you're still going to end up in a bad way. So there are things going on that have taken, especially young people, because as you move on in age, what are you doing for society when you're 70, 80 or 90? It's the young people's time now to develop society in a particular way. And it's upsetting if you're of a certain age to see that young people, and I don't like to generalize, because sometimes when you're immersed in certain behaviors, whether it's in work or whether in your area, you start forgetting there's a lot of good out there. But and that the bad always overshadows the good in any capacity. So it's upsetting though that it feels sometimes that not a lot of young black people are taking up that prince, princess, king, queen status. But you know, some people say that the puppet master is manipulating, you know.
I hear that. How can education, representation in media and community support help black individuals recognize their inherent value and potentials as kings and queens in their own right?
I think, you know, there are grassroots organizations out there that do great work. Sometimes they're hard to find, especially in North London. I've noticed that South London, from the beginning of when I was aware of anything, I've always had a rich black history and rich black sort of grassroots movements. So they're always doing a lot for the black community. North London's not so much like that. TV, there's not much black British representation on British TV. You might see a lot of that on Netflix. And, you know, how people are going abroad, and Idris Elba and Damson Idris and Ratman and Supercell, and it becoming a sort of global phenomenon, but not feeling anymore like it's some of these actors are homegrown British. They found their stardom in a place what would allow that for them.
Yes.
You know, and there's a reason for that. It's just like back in the day with Loose Ends and Omar and certain old school groups that were really popular, but they had to find their notoriety not in Britain so much so, but abroad. There has to be a sort of synergy, this connection between everyone, and there's still this disconnect amongst black organisations, amongst black people in their communities. Not enough promotion on TV of the good things that black people do. Again, it can feel like brainwashing of the youngsters when all you see is Top Boy and other Blue Story films like that, and other sort of what I consider to be good for entertainment, but not really good for encoding into the minds of young people any positivity, especially when I work with disaffected young people. I've had to, in my time, numerous murders, and I've some of my students have murdered, and some of them have been murdered. More recently, I've had to go to their funerals. So for me, I can see the impact that some of these productions have on the minds, mixed with drill music and youth culture. For me, you know how it is. You can't wholly put down youth culture now, because youth culture when I was young had this edgy way to it as well. The only part of youth culture now that's the worst part is the killings, more than anything else. You can put up with the, and the street robberies with the big knives and all that. This sort of archaic, medieval sort of new age of existing. It's madness. But, if they were just doing little robberies here and there, I'm not down for that. I'm not saying that, but it's what young people do. The Teddy Boys and the Rockers, the White Boys and the Skinheads, they had their thing. They've got grunge, they've got rock and roll, they do their thing. We do our thing, in a particular manner, and a lot of people like to jump on our thing. But youth culture has gone to the extreme in regards to violence, in regards to disrespect. And like I've said before, some people will say that people have been manipulated in different ways to, because black people are susceptible emotionally. And people know that. If you've got advertising campaigns for McDonald's, KFC, Tesco, whatever, and big games corporations and PlayStation and whatever, and Gucci and all those big name brands that have got dream analysts and psychologists that work behind the scenes to promote that and project it into the minds of people and keep them wanting it and consuming and eating it up. That's how it is, because we're susceptible for that. You can't be impoverished and feel impoverished mentally. I mean, black people are like this. I live in a ghetto. You're not living in a ghetto. When I went to Egypt, when I've been to bits of Trinidad, I know ghetto. I've seen it. Some people know ghetto. So even me here right now where I'm living, I could say it's ghetto, but it's not ghetto. But what's been encoded, what's projected into your minds, what's been pumped in, you've been indoctrinated into thinking that you live in a ghetto and you act accordingly.
I hear that. So having that said, do you think that we're our own worst enemy? Because we're in a situation right now where we have, like, with this podcast, it's just thoughts and feelings from all of us, and we're just sharing them and we're projecting it. We've got things like YouTube, Rumble, we've got the social medias where we can direct and write certain things and push a certain narrative out. So do you reckon we're our own worst enemy in the sense that some of us are not stepping up to do these things to put out the right imagery?
It is hard work. I mean, on one hand, you exist in a society where you need money. Young people are at the forefront of the development of most things. So it's not a 50, 60, 70-year-old that's putting out new material on the screen or on drill or whatever. It's younger people. Now, the culture amongst younger people is money-based, really, and image-based, really. So those ones that want to put out the positive stuff may be putting it out. They ain't getting nowhere. Nothing's happening for them. Their friends, maybe, or associates, or people that they know indirectly, or whatever, in whatever capacity, are doing the nonsensical music that creates these drives in young people to go and do naughty, bad things, and they're getting paid and they're getting the notoriety, and everyone's talking their name, you know, blah blah blah. You know, you see my man's video, or whatever. Then the switch might come. You're good at what you do, but I have to exist in this society where my positive way of being is not paying off, it's not paying the bills. I'm still at home with mummies, blah, blah, blah. I can't get the latest gear. I can't drive a nice car. I can't do nothing much. So I'm still a good rapper. I'm just saying it as, you know, this is an example in regards to rap. I'm a good rapper. So what do? It's like young boys that play football. I'm good at playing football, and you're trying to get scouted. But your friend's on road and making money and in the latest gear, and you feel the pull, but you're not getting no money yet. You've got to wait and get picked up by a team, and you've got to go practice 3, 4, 5 times a week and not play a game on a Sunday. Your friend's just relaxing every day, it seems like. And he's got the money, and he's got the Jordans, and he's got the trap star, whatever they're wearing. And then you get pulled out, you're not going football no more. So it's hard work nowadays for young people, especially in a capitalist, in this mechanism, you know, for them to sort of keep their head above water in that positive realm, you know, because there's a feeling of survival. You need to survive. Unconsciously, young black people have already been affected by, more than likely, their parents' trauma, how things go on in the home. Right. There's a contradiction of traditional values and old school values and existing in a new school way, let alone you've got old traditional values, you've got you wanting to operate in a new school way because you see how your friend's family operates, and then you might have a cultural force in there as well, whether you're African or, you know, real deep-rooted Jamaican or whatever, yeah, and the teachings that come with that. But you're living in England, you know, and the value system's a bit different. So it's hard work. I think for me to be tomorrow I'm 55. I can't even believe that. But it's like for me to navigate this social space now as a youngster, I'd hate it. It'd be hard work. Young people do it, and you know, and I rate them. I look at them and think, how are you navigating this space like it's normal? Because for me, on the outside looking in, this ain't normal. Let alone in 20, 30 years' time when you got AI robots walking about, or whatever's going to happen then, you know?
Yeah.
And we'll be really detached from that way of living. But what will be the plight of black people then? I wonder, will things come full circle? And will people find unity? It might be the case. You know, because things happen. You know, things are 360 a lot of the time. You know, nations rise and fall, and as black nations fell, there's no doubt that they'll rise again at some point in whatever way. And I'm not looking for mastery over the globe, but what you do seek is equality more than anything else.
That's right.
Yo, what's outside is within. The mind regulates the hand that masters the pen. The pen is mightier than the sword, but the tongue is mightier still. The stargate to the mind's revealed. The vortex.